that was silly, ridiculous, a waste of time. They didn't want. That's why they were so successful. That's why they got away.
Made a living in very dangerous.
This is really an integrated blue society.
Dianne Andrews in black and white.
Thank you for coming back to part 2 of Black, White, Blue Lives Matter with Rev White and with Donna Chisesi. Thanks for coming back to Dianne Andrews in black and white. Next, we're going to talk to our second survivor of a police killing, who's been on the show before, who has been seen on documentaries. His whole story has been told on Sugarland on Discovery Channel. We want to talk to Rev White again because he is a person of God and may have a different slant on how he's handling this. But his case is entirely or somewhat a lot different. At the end, it seems like things get covered up when mistakes were made or when things on purpose are done, maybe in both these cases. But there could be no mistake on why his son may have been murdered, was murdered. When you call this the Houdini case, and we don't want you to think that his son was a magician. And any of the blacks or whites, Sarah Wilson was also a victim recently of this, a white lady, and they called her a Houdini case too. But Houdini is saying that was the greatest magician that ever lived with handcuffs. And I think what we want people to convey out here is these people were no magicians. Something happened that shouldn't have happened. There's no way they got up these handcuffs the way they did. Let's talk, Rev White, about what happened with your son.
Yes, ma'am. Again, thank you, Miss Dianne, for having us on again. I appreciate it, and I think you're listening audience as well. And Miss Donna, good to see you again.
Yeah, and they know each other. Y'all have like a community of people who have gone through
bond,
this.
as we call it.
Yeah.
We ended up getting into a fraternity and sorority where we didn't volunteer.
Right.
We were forced into it, and and as you said, so my son.
But it's like a support group also. You can help each other.
Absolutely. Definitely. We understand, and it's always good to have someone that can relate to the loss that we go through. As in grieving parents and other, and natural causes as well. With ours, it's horrific. But yet and still, we can come together and support each other, lift each other up, even at those downtimes. Because one thing about our kids being murdered, right, is that it's forever there. So and then
the loss is forever there. And what happened to find justice?
And the justice piece that we're still seeking.
Victor and justice for Jonathan.
It's the same fight.
It's the same fight. Situations may be somewhat different, but the fight is exactly the same. So
tell them a little bit about the story if they didn't see you on here or see your documentary.
Yes, and my son Victor White III, he was killed on March the 3rd of 2014. That night on March the 2nd, we got a call from our son that was in Iberia, Louisiana.
Where were you in Lake Charles then? Had you moved?
We was actually in Alexandria. We lived in Alexandria. Actually, we moved from New Iberia because there was a change in the sheriff. Actually, that was the election of the sheriff. Louis Alco was elected.
That's why you moved, because of the sheriff.
Because of the sheriff. I was there working. I was a consultant for the Iberia Parish Sheriff's Department under Sid Abair. And what we was doing
was a pretty okay guy. He was okay guy.
Ma'am. Sid Abair, he was open and he understood the change, and they was trying to impact change in the West End, which was the low socioeconomic parts of Iberia Parish.
Mostly black?
Yes, mostly black. And
some whites though, some poor whites.
Yes, ma'am. It was
and brown people.
That's correct. And that's what it was. So we was there. We were doing we were doing tutoring, computer skills, life skills, substance abuse prevention, as well as substance abuse.
So he had gotten education. A grant for his city for those kind of programs. Yeah.
Right. And so in coming in, so that's why they brought me in. That's the reason why I moved from Alexandria to go down and participate in that. And so we were doing it under Sid Abair, and then Louis Alco was elected sheriff, and Louis Alco.
So he lost, or was he? Do they term limit the sheriffs?
He didn't term limit. He just wasn't running again.
He just got tired of it.
Right. He had seen, from my understanding, what was going going on, so he was moving on.
Now, was this guy already, he was a deputy, the guy who won the sheriff's spot?
No, Louis Alcott, no, he was a former state trooper. He was a former Louisiana state trooper. That was Louis Alcott. Again, you know, when he came in, you could tell as he was campaigning.
Oh my God, I saw him on Sugartown, and he was some horrible.
Yes, ma'am. Well, and you'll see that's his whole
attitude. This is my court.
Yes,
this is my city.
That's right. He used to call himself the kingpin. As a matter of fact, his deputy would call themselves the Alcott Thugs. You know, they even had them.
What did he call himself, his deputy?
The Alcott Thugs.
Like Al Capone.
Yes, ma'am. He was just like that, and they were thugs.
Is he a Hispanic guy? Is he Italian? I mean Italian guy when they're talking about Al Capone.
And what was going on with Louis Alcott when he got elected, he came in where we had a community center. Where they had named the community center, and so, which was about maybe 3 minutes away from the sheriff's department, or actually the courthouse. And so he said to me, Louis Alcott said to me, you know, that he wanted to go in a different direction. So the grant money, he wanted to go in a different direction, but I knew what it was earmarked for, so I said, well, you know, I couldn't do that. Well,
you ran the community center?
Yes, ma'am. I was in charge of the grant portion of it.
So he basically eliminated your position and all the help in the community.
Right. Well, actually, his thing was that because of the individuals, what he lived at, he said, the drug dealer and all that part, he said that was a part of their life. You know, that's a family way of living, so there was no need for us to even present those programs down there because we was getting other grants, myself and Miss Sylvia at the time. We had reached out to Johnson Brothers, and, you know, we were getting some grants and things like that.
Were you seeing an improvement? How many years did you do that?
Oh, yes, ma'am. I was there 5 years, and we seen quite a bit of improvement with the individuals there, and also from them being able to speak out. But another thing that was kind of ironic is that we were always considered outsiders. They never seen us as being there to really help them.
You weren't from New Iberia originally. Where are you from?
Alexandria.
Oh, so that's when you went back to Alexandria.
So
now, why didn't your son go with you?
Well, they did.
He was 22, right?
Right.
How was he?
At the time, he was 21.
Yeah,
but
21.
He moved back. We moved back in 2013. Well, actually, well, he moved back to New Iberia October 2013.
So he just moved back.
Right, he had just moved
6,
back.
8
His
months.
girlfriend, she had had a child. Matter of fact, right before that, he had came. They had come for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and then, you know, left again. So
let's briefly talk about what that scene and why he's called it one of the Houdini cases, because I understand Benjamin Crump and Carol Powell Lexington from Louisiana were your civil rights attorneys on this case.
That's right.
And you can tell me when we get to the end of what what that status is on that. But let's talk about that night. What have you pieced together that happened?
Sure, I can tell you they picked him up. Justin Ortiz, matter of fact, in October, he had to run in with my son.
This new guy did, the new sheriff.
Right, no, the actual deputy that
ended up shooting him, you think?
Right, he did. Well, actually, he wasn't the first officer on the scene. The person that stopped my son, right, which was, we really didn't understand who he was because they wouldn't say who he was. We know the captain was Smith. That's all we knew, right? And then it comes out later that Justin Ortiz, because of the friend, my son, that the friend with him, he said, no, they had him, and one guy stopped him. And then this other guy came back and said, well, do you remember me? Which was Justin Ortiz. So they already patted him down, placed him in one vehicle. So they take him out.
Now, they did find a small reefer.
That's what they said. They say they found, but if you look at the video, actually, you see Justin Ortiz actually searching his pockets.
But they came to this 7-Eleven or whatever the store was from something, another call, right? It wasn't about your son.
No, ma'am, it wasn't about my son.
Wrong
actually,
place.
They wasn't involved in it because of the video, which they altered the video. See, we actually had the original video. I actually saw the video. I saw my son was, but the video they show in Sugartown is not the actual video.
Really?
That's the altered version of that video. We saw the video. And as a matter of fact,
the body cam or the dash cam?
No, they said it wasn't a body cam, wasn't a dash cam. All you seen with the dash cam was what they showed in Sugartown with him. Because they initially told that
So where was the original video you saw from?
At the Hop-In store. I saw the original video with my son with a fight. We saw the fight.
There was a fight?
Yes, ma'am, there was a fight. But
your son wasn't involved?
No, ma'am. He was inside the store, he and his friend. And then the people on the outside looked nothing like my son.
And where's this friend today? They didn't arrest him, right?
Right, no, they let him go. They let him go.
He had your son happened to have a small little reefer, which is legal in 90% of America now. But So he had nothing on him when they searched him. So they took him in for that.
Correct. Supposedly,
but he and this guy had already had a run-in.
Yes. And
what's his name? Justin Ortiz?
Justin Ortiz, correct. Right now he's on the Youngsville Police Department.
He's what?
He's with the Youngsville Police Department back with
Youngsville, Ohio?
Youngsville, Louisiana.
Oh, okay.
With the police department back with Ricky Boudreaux, who was also the patrol captain of Iberia Parish Sheriff's Department. Wow. So they're back together.
Yeah.
And like I said, when they did that, when they brought him in, they searched him again. And so when we got the call,
but he's in the back seat when he kills himself. They searched. They never took him in before he was shot to the police precinct, right?
Right. He was. I think that's where he got shot at, actually, because when they handcuffed him, when they took him to be so-called booked, right? Well, they didn't take him where they normally would. They backed the vehicle up in a dark spot, no camera.
You think he was already shot?
Yes, ma'am.
Was he shot in the car, you think, or was he shot once they got him in there?
I think when they backed him up, that's when they shot him. When they backed that car up to where they couldn't see anything, that's where they shot him, because everything else shows when they say that was, right, we could see in the crime scene with no blood, everything.
Had he ever been to jail before? Had he ever been booked for anything else?
Yes, right there in Iberia Parish. That's what I'm saying.
That's where they know him from.
Justin Ortiz.
Yeah.
Justin Ortiz, and they had seen.
I know you said they had a run-in, so he had.
Right,
how long was he in jail before?
No, he maybe
in and out,
maybe 3 or 4 days. Yeah, something of that nature. Because they said they had a warrant. We had to work that out because the actual judge that was on that case was on vacation. That's what we was told. So we had to wait till all that iron itself out. And again, I was in Alexandria.
Did you get an independent? But since you had the top attorneys, civil rights in the country, Benjamin Crump at that time, Crump may still be, purportedly. And Carol Powell, Lexing, they worked together, right?
Right.
And did they ask for an independent autopsy?
Sure, but they got a summary. That's what they got. We didn't get the independent autopsy.
They didn't ask for one because they have to give it to you. I
correct,
think.
But no, right. But they didn't because we didn't. Well, we was demanding one, but we couldn't get them to get one. So with Carol Powell.
Why didn't Crump and
at the time Benjamin Crump wasn't there. He came along afterwards. Actually, he came along. Sheriff Carter's mother, Teresa Carter. That's how we ended up.
One of the other Houdini cases.
That's how we ended up going. When we got together, that's how I found out about Benjamin.
So your
Crump.
First attorney was who?
Carol Powell Lexing.
Okay.
Right.
And she brought in Benjamin Crump.
Right. Well, which
she now works with.
Correct. We introduced them. Mm-hmm. She said she knew of him. I've spoken with him, so I told her. Everybody was saying, well, he'll be great to be on the case. Yeah. And so, and once that happened, we did. We had them both come in, but it was like I said, that's who was prepping me. His firm, his law firm was prepping us to go to court.
Now, let me ask you this. Back to the incident, they backed the car up is what you have ascertained. But they're saying even though he was patted down, he found a gun somewhere on him, an invisible gun that must be this thin. And he found this gun somewhere on him and shot himself in the back.
Yes.
But he was really, when I read something last night, he was shot in the chest, right?
He was shot on the right side, right. He was shot right side of the chest.
Oh, the right side of the chest, okay.
Right side of the chest, and then the bullet came out on his arm. But here's the ironic thing with that, is my son was left-handed. See, and so we told the coroner that when we met with the coroner, he was saying, initially the same thing they said.
And when you saw him in the morgue, I think you say he was beaten up, didn't you?
Yeah, oh yes, ma'am.
Did you take a picture?
They wouldn't let me do anything. All they would let me do is perform the last rites of my son. Actually, they didn't want me to do that. But when we get in, that's the first thing I noticed. When they opened the door, I could see my son. I seen his face on the left side. His eye was hit he was hit so hard. It had a mark, looked like the butt of a shotgun.
Well, if they booked him, don't they have to have a picture of what he looked like when they booked him?
But they never booked him. See, that's the thing.
But I'm saying they said they didn't, so they threw away. They never booked him.
And even with Justin Ortiz's initial statement.
So they're saying they left him in the car alone, and they went in, left this guy handcuffs behind his back, and he found a gun and killed himself after being patted down twice.
Well, initially they said that he had become unruly, and he refused to get out of the car. So Justin Ortiz was going to get help, and the only way to get help, he heard a pop. That was the initial story. Mm-hmm. And that's how it came out first.
But nobody ever found his murder weapon.
No. As a matter of fact, no.
How did it disappear?
The state trooper said they had it, right? So, but when we went to Stephanie Finley, which was Attorney General, when we was there, we asked her, had she seen it?
She's U.S. Attorney.
Right, she was the U.S. Attorney at the time. Mm-hmm. And so we asked them, had y'all seen it? We asked their investigators, had they seen the gun? No, they didn't see the gun. Well, how you know? Okay, we're trying to figure it out. Well, they went into one of my other son's phone, and they said, well, that gun appeared to be the same gun. I'm saying, I'm still baffled by that.
Well, where is the murder weapon?
Right, and so they said the
That's
state police,
right.
so Katie Morrell with the state police, so we asked them, right? So then when we met with Bo Doohy of the Iberia Parish Sheriff's Department, we asked them, okay, did y'all see the gun? So no one actually seen this gun.
Or can have it as evidence that he killed himself.
Correct.
Or that anybody killed him with a gun,
Right.
which we know he's dead from a gun, but there's no gun.
Yeah, and they'd have drop-down guns. See, and that's my thing was that Justin Ortiz had a drop-down gun.
What's a drop-down gun?
Well, when they have the guns tied to in a little case on on the leg and stuff like that. So you know, and those.
What kind of gun was it that he was killed with?
A 25.
Is that a drop-down gun?
Well,
is that what they have?
They say it's not, but you can't say what kind it is.
Oh, okay.
See, that's the thing. They were saying, well, no, they said it wasn't a Iberia Parish issue weapon, right?
That's
well,
why
if
you
it's a drop-down gun, that's why it's
autopsy.
not. Correct.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're working on getting the case reopened as well. But, you know, because of the climate we're in.
Okay, so tell me, since your attorneys didn't ask for the independent autopsy, you say you got a summary of their autopsy. Is that what you got?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did that say?
Well, all the thing it was saying is that there's no conclusion that he committed suicide, but what it says
because that's what they're saying.
Correct.
He was saying, I don't want to go back to jail, so I'm gonna kill myself or whatever.
Even
right?
in what the coroner said, right? Remember, they're supposed to be independent of anything, but the coroner said because of the officer said, my son said, tell my family I love them and I'm gone now. And it doesn't even make sense because he's not going to say that because I talk to my son almost three times a day, and each time we hang up the phone, just like now, my children, we say we love each other.
Right.
He said, I love you, Dad.
Yeah.
I said, I love you, son, or Pops. That's how he would say it. And I said, I love you. So you know, that didn't make sense.
He was not depressed.
No,
he had no
wasn't.
reason to want to kill himself.
No, he had just got off. He pulled a double. He worked at the Waffle House, pulled a double. He had just enrolled in CLTCC so that he can go
What's
for
that?
welding.
Community
community training, the college, CLTCC.
So he was building his future.
Yes, he was, and he was going to be a welder, and so he did.
And he had a son. How old is his son? The daughter actually. A daughter.
That's actually not his daughter, but because he signed the birth certificate, there's some things that we even that was a thing with the attorneys, you know.
What happened with the daughter and the attorneys? Because I remember you told me back then you wanted to take this to the Supreme Court. You told me that.
Correct.
So what happened?
Yes, ma'am. Well, because she said, okay, Paul Lexing, we told her she told us that they were going to do DNA. So that's why I'm saying we believed that the whole time that
do DNA to make sure the daughter was his, because she would get any monies. Were there any monies given on this case?
They did. But you remember they had a gag order on that, and finally KTC out of Lafayette as well as Advocate, right? They sued and they won so that they could actually get it released, and it was almost $400,000. Well, Carol Paul Lexing got $267,000.
They get 50% is what the attorneys get.
She got 40%, and the child got $133,000. But here's something that's ironic, where she said that we
she didn't get 200 then, because that would have been.
Well, she got hers was like they got 100 and the children got 133,000. And she got 267,000.
For what?
Like that.
I thought they get 40%. She got way more.
I'm just saying it was something in that somewhere in that
expenses. They had to add all the expenses and everything. I thought that goes with the 40%.
Right. Well, me too. But like she said, if they would do this, but according
and because he was an adult, your family could get, not that that's the most important thing, but at all, the loss of your son, of course, and you all both know that is the most important thing. But you have no control over how this granddaughter is held, but she's got $130,000. You got nothing, and Carol Lexing got over $200,000. And you're sure $400,000 is what the amount was?
It was somewhere in there because we actually got the check. We got the voided check, well, the checks, and my name and my wife's name is actually on the check.
Well, how did they? So somebody forged your name?
I don't know what happened with that, but my wife's name.
You can sue for that.
Well, see, you know, we'll taking a look at that. Actually, we actually reported her to the disciplinary board. That's we did that as well because, again, we was led to believe that there was going to be a DNA test done.
Has one been done on this little girl that's supposed to be?
No.
So she may turn out to be your granddaughter. You don't know.
Well, like I said, no, we know for sure. My son, we had a conversation. That's Sunday. That's what I'm saying.
But you know, let me have y'all. Hey, I have to say this, not disputing you, but I've seen what's that show that comes on Maury Povich and everybody, is it your kid? Is it not your kid? Some people know, I'm not my kid, but you know, and then it turns out to be. But then
but
some
she
say it is, and it's not.
Matter of fact, but here we go. Let's say, like I said, I mean, we open because the thing is, right? If the mother believed that was right, then we have.
They were dating.
Yes, she was. But when he came back, when we got her from Lake Charles, she was already pregnant.
Okay, but
See,
hey, okay,
no.
that's
But-
one for you and your family.
Yes,
but yeah.
correct. But like I say, but no, what I'm saying is, that we got facts to back it up. That's all I'm saying.
But DNA is
Yes,
really
ma'am.
going to be the thing
Yes,
that
ma'am.
tells you the fact.
Right, but we're not on that, as Ms. Donna said.
I don't know why. Do you think they did a DNA and not told you?
No, it never was done. It never was done. And we know that because, like I said, I found the father. I know who the father was.
But you know what I've seen with cases with Eric Garner and some other cases, they get millions of dollars. I think his family got $4 to $6 million. So you sure this was on? Yeah.
I'm positive. See, because here's the thing: her and Benjamin Crump, when after they reached the settlement, Carol Paul Lexing didn't even tell me. I found out through the Times-Picayune. Someone forwarded it to me. So when I called Carol Paul Lexing, she did not even answer the phone. See, so I mean, she wouldn't answer the phone, and then when she finally answered the phone, because I called a friend of ours, mutual friend of mine, and they called her. She answered the phone. Then I asked her, why, what happened? Because we were being prepped. Now I'm telling you, we were being prepped to go to court to trial
by Benjamin Crump.
By Benjamin Crump every day. We were from that point.
And he didn't tell you the check had arrived.
No, he didn't ever told us that. He said it really wasn't his case. It was Carol's case. He was co-counsel.
So now, if you take a check, you can't settle, right? I mean, you settled when you took the case. You can't take it to the Supreme Court.
And that knocks out everything, correct. That knocks out everything.
Can you open it up at this date now to try to reopen the case?
Well, that's what we're working on at this point. So
what is your lawyer telling you now?
Well, right now, because we have some of the other stuff, we're waiting on some other things to see if we can get the other part to materialize. And as I was saying before, with that, where we were, is that they told me they couldn't prove that my son was left-handed. So I went and got the proof. I called Benjamin Crump, told them, so Carol Paul Lexing was supposed to contact the individual in which that had the evidence show my son was left-handed. Well, they settled the case. And I'm still thinking at this, right? So she told me on the phone the reason why they didn't tell me that they were settling that case, because she did not want me to derail their case. Benjamin Crump told me on the phone while we had this case, when we was discussing it, he said, so you telling me you don't want the child that your son signed the birth certificate, because they, like I said, when we knew about the child that signed the birth certificate to get no money? I told, well, this is not about money. See, remember y'all asked me what would justice mean? Justice to me would be that the individual that are responsible for the death of my son do just like anybody else. Be brought forth, right, with a jury of their peers, and let's give account. Let's find out what happened.
Understanding, most of these cases are settled. That the civil rights attorneys do not take it. Some people may want the money, but some people like you don't want the money. They want to take it as far as they can for justice. And that's what your justice is. I guess, and that's a decision I guess everybody makes. Who's ever justice, if getting the money, and I'm not trying to say anything bad about the people who accept the money, because it's a long road to take it to the Supreme Court and you may not win anyway. But your son was over 21 and you couldn't even be, part of some things to help the daughter, or let's say another kid one day pops up that really was his, and nothing to help that son or daughter. So it just seems like both of you all have had such, I don't want to say bad advice from on your side, and you're trying to get the information. Your information, a lot of it, 80%, some is in Akron and Sugartown though. That shows right there, and anybody who saw Sugartown has got to think there's something wrong with justice on this case in New Iberia, right? I don't know how. Did many people contact you and say, what? No one called you like an attorney and said, I want to help you or anything like that?
No, because remember, once the case was settled, and once again, we didn't want, that's why we went
What about that NAACP? But that's after you have gone to jail. They only help, they have a defense.
No, they had a defense fund, but again, but remember that the president of the Iberia Parish chapter of the NAACP, remember at the end of Lewis Alcott, remember they were hugged up. Geraldine Brown. See, they was hugged up at the end of that, right? See,
I don't know if you saw what Bob Johnson, the former owner of BET, put out over the internet, and he had an interview and everything, and he said, us blacks, we're 40 million people, we're 13% of 300, almost 50 million. And he said, we always vote Democratic, and we're the largest voting bloc in the presidential election. We are. He said, and we need to stop, because we're 13%, but we all vote one way. He said, and what have these people done for us? I'm just thinking about this guy hugged up with him. He's over the NAACP. And that's exactly, if you look at some of the towns that are having problems now, if you look at the problems, and defunding police is going to make it worse in the poor areas, and that includes black, brown, and white. And maybe we have sold. He said we sold out, our politicians sold out a long time ago from black people. He said that 2 weeks ago. And some of that, if you look around, we've got Martin Luther King wanted us to have a lot of political power. Look at major cities right now. They are mostly black women
Yes.
and white women
Yes.
who are running these cities.
Running the cities, yes, ma'am.
And I'll tell you, it looks like it's worse than it was when I was a little girl in a lot of ways that it was. And I don't think there's as much hate between black and white as people in this country try to make it look out to be. You've got bad people that are black. Obviously, in your case, you've had some black people who are bad, and you've got miserable people who are white, and they come in all shades, just like Martin Luther King said, right?
Yes.
And so I hope you can find, you do have another attorney that you can help find some justice and take this way. 'Cause this one is just so cut and dry to me, you know, as a civilian person looking at this. It's just so outrageous what has happened. But I will say this, Carol Powell did try to get information out of him at that courtroom when he said, this is my courtroom. And maybe they just thought the case was too tough with people up there.
Right, well, like
has
he was
anybody
saying,
disappeared kind of strangely up there?
Yes, ma'am, but
I can see that kind of place.
There's some other settlements, remember, but within that, right, there was one guy that, like I said, when you talk about that, they beat him bad and everything, got $2 million out of that, because remember, think about it, $6 million.
$2 million they gave him for beating up in New Iberia?
He was beating up in New Iberia, yes, ma'am. They beat him up.
So you sure they only got 400,000, you think?
So I'm just, yes, ma'am. Well, like I said, I
really don't know.
All I know is from the checks that we have since they got it, right, we have a copy of it, and so on that, that's what it shows. I'm saying what was shown on there. So you know, that's where I'm getting those figures from. But other than that, I wouldn't know anything. I just know that. But
how can your attorneys not talk to you? And did you sign an agreement with Carol but not with Crump? Is that what it was?
Right, we signed with Carol. See, and here's the other thing that she even said that was an altered document too. So
she said she wasn't your attorney then?
No, she said she was, but then she was also representing the other person. She said she told her it was a conflict.
The baby's mother? Is that what she's talking about?
She knows she'd have told me it was a conflict, just as she said. We had 2 conversations regarding that. Matter of fact, I sent a letter in October requesting that me and her meet so we can discuss the case and go over it, right?
Yeah.
Well, she never answered any of the correspondence I sent her until after the settlement. Then she sent me some, you know, and I would even call and text her and ask her what's going on, so and so, you know. And then on top of that, I would always ask, well, are you representing us? So she'll call back and say, well, what make you think that? Because of the fact, right, we're not hearing anything from you, not saying anything. And so she said that she gave me something we signed, and so I showed them that the date was altered, you know. So you know, I mean, we never signed that when she met with Shondell Bradley, the mother of the child. With Shondell Bradley, when she met with her, she knows, because if she'd have told me that, you know, because that mother, Shondell Bradley, the person that raised her, told her I'm not going to allow her to miss an opportunity that I missed out early on in life, and that's what she told. She told us to us, and that's what I told Carol Paul Lexing. I
think this is something, you know, of course, we aren't involved in your perception of what you're saying now from Dianne Andrews in Black and White, but I just wanted to really shine a light on both of you all. I want the people to remember your son and your son. I wanted you to show the pictures and say their names and their date of birth and the date of death.
Victor White III, September 11th, 1991. To March the 3rd, 2014.
Jonathan David Victor, June 6, 1981. Deceased, or as they marked it, expired May 13th, 2017.
Thank you all.
And thank you.
Thank you all for being on the show. And
Thank you for allowing us and giving us this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. It's what I do, to try to help people that, you know, need help.